Hi, this is Emma Sutherland. Join us on FX Medicine next week, where I'll be talking to Ananda Mani about the tricky skin condition rosacea. Subscribe to us on your favourite podcast app and follow us on social media to make sure you never miss an episode.
Welcome to FX Medicine, bringing you the latest in evidence-based, integrative, functional and complementary medicine. I'm Dr Michelle Woolhouse. FX Medicine acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia where we live and work, and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to the elders, past and present, and extend this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. Accessing the power of the mind has been a topic in every culture throughout the ages. But do we really know how to access it, how to embrace it, and most importantly, how to use it in clinical practice? Science over the last few decades has been truly informative in this space. It has been through the combining of the basic sciences of biology, chemistry, and quantum physics that has infused the research with a new understanding. So today, who better to teach us about these fundamental shifts in perception and understanding than one of the grandfathers of holistic medical understanding, Dr Bruce Lipton. Dr Bruce Lipton is a pioneering research in the fields of cellular biology and was one of the first to identify, understand and educate the world about the scientific underpinning of the expanded viewpoint of energetics in medicine and cellular functioning. His research studies conducted at Stanford University's School of Medicine has added to a growing field in the science of psychoneuroimmunology and biological epigenetics. Welcome to the show, my good friend Bruce.
I am so happy to be here with you because I so appreciate your effort in the world to help bring health to the people. It's most important, integrative health.
Oh, thanks, Bruce. So, Bruce, it's been nearly 20 years since you published your book, The Biology of Belief, which was truly a groundbreaking exploration and education in the understanding of the role of the cell and how it interacts with the environment. So I wanted to start by asking you what you mean about the new biology and take us through the history of major kind of Western thinking in cellular biology and medicine and why your exploration was just so groundbreaking.
Well, let's put it this way. Science is built on the advances that were made in the past. And when new advances come in, sometimes it's time to revitalize our understanding and go with some new thinking. And the world is now operating in the medical community generally with old thinking, with new science that is so much more self-empowering than the science that conventional medicine, and I really want to emphasize conventional pharmaceutical companies, because I used to be a professor in a medical school, and people should really know that the great influence on the curriculum in medical school is really coming from the pharmaceutical agencies. Their mission is patient comes in, give them a prescription before they go out. And that hold on the system has prevented the adoption of much newer science and much more self-empowering science, which includes a couple of things, three things that I talk about that have completely changed our understanding of science. Is number one is, I'm going to say it and people are going to go, I'm going to say quantum biophysics. Okay. And I say, well, that sounds very crazy, but we can talk about it and simplify it because it's necessary. There's a very important saying calling knowledge is power. A lack of knowledge is a lack of power. And the knowledge that we're going to talk about with quantum biophysics, number one, if you understand this, it changes who you are and how powerful you really are in creating your life when you understand it. So quantum biophysics is a whole change from the conventional science of the pharmaceutical and conventional medical world. The second one that is an important change is that most everybody in the world has been programmed with a belief called genetics, with the concept that the genes can turn on and off by themselves and in the process control your fate. And when you understand, as far as we know, we didn't pick the genes, or more importantly, we cannot change the genes and the genes determine who we are, we own the concept of being a victim of our heredity. It's running in a family. I could get the gene. I could get it. Totally false. This is a completely false belief, but the general public is imbued with this belief, and their own perception of themselves as being powerless over their heredity. They get into the position of being a victim, and I need outside help to get my health back again. So that's part of another misperception. And the last misperception, I don't know, we're going to talk about which ones, but this one is the belief that we live in a Darwinian evolution world. I go, what's the foundation of that? And I say, well, the foundation is the summary of that whole theory and a competition for survival in the world, to the struggle of life. Competition to survive the struggle of life, which is a belief system that says evolution is competition. Who's going to win? Who's going to lose? Losers, unfortunately, that's called evolution. And it turns out that theory is 100% wrong. The new insight about evolution is all based on cooperation, not competition, which changes the direction of the world. So those are three misperceptions. And I would like to talk about any of them because each one of them offers more personal empowerment for us to live the life we wish and desire. And let me just start off with the quantum physics one just for a second, because this science is the most valid science on the planet, meaning the understanding and the theoretic understanding of quantum physics is more valid than any other science that we have on this planet. But why I wanted to bring it up is because I want to emphasize principle number one. Principle number one is consciousness is creating our life experience. And I want to emphasize that because consciousness is what we generate. And then it says that we should, we're creating our life with our consciousness. And then this becomes problematic because people look at their life and go, well, I wouldn't have created that. I wouldn't have done that. Because there's a misunderstanding about the nature of consciousness and programming, et cetera, that really shapes who we are. When this information is cleared up, I think there's a lot of opportunity for people to take back power over their lives and actually create the life that they really want to have on this planet.
I remember a long time ago, probably around the same time I read your book, I read a book by Fritjof Capra, which was called The Tao of Physics, which was essentially this introduction into this bioquantum physics world. And it literally blew my mind just in terms of it twists your perception of what is possible. It's almost like you have to I used to have to take a break and let it infuse into me because it was just so overwhelming.
The first time, I was a professor in a medical school.
Yeah.
When I first read quantum physics, just like it blew my mind. I said, oh my God, this is not the way we are thinking in regard to how life works. It's completely different. And then to recognize that, not just that it was different, but it's the most valid insight, pushed me out. I left the medical system. I said, it's wrong. We have to come into this wholeness, which is the character of quantum physics. And of course, this is the whole concept of integrated medicine. Stop being specialists and start being integrated to know how all these things work together, not focused on any one. And that's the nature of quantum physics.
And I think too, even the whole, I absolutely adore neuroscience, which I'm sure you do as well, but Western kind of science and education is still so hung up on hierarchy. It's always is the brain the boss of the, the heart, or is the gut the more important than the brain? And we always like to sort of have a hierarchy of all of this understanding. And it's really challenging for people that have grown up in that Western culture to actually understand holism is holism is holism is holism. You know, everything is important. And your book kind of takes us through the fact that it's so dualistic, but it's not even dualistic, it's holistic, and it's kind of different to, you have to keep coming back to the whole all of the time to really understand, you know, our power, but also our influence in community and our influence on the planet and the planet's influence on us. Talk us through, this.
I mean, this is the connection as to how come with all the money that's being spent every day, more and more money, the healthcare crisis gets worse every day.
I know. I say that too, and I think, I've been
I want to
a
give
doctor.
A fact, and I want people to know I'm saying this as a fact. I'm not just complaining here or anything. As a fact that in the United States, and it's very similar to New Zealand and Australia, in the United States, the third leading cause of death in the United States is the medical profession. The first leading cause of death is cardiovascular disease. The second cause of death is cancer. And the third leading cause of death has a Latin name called iatrogenic illness. It takes us back to the time when the church wrote in Latin and nobody could understand what the hell they said, so they had to explain it to you. Iatrogenic science also writes in Latin, and so nobody knows what the hell is iatrogenic illness, and the answer is, in simple terms, illness as a result of medical treatment.
I know.
And all of a sudden says, oh my God, medicine is the third leading cause of death in the United States. I said, who said that? I said, the Journal of the American Medical Association and the British Medical Journal did the same research and with the same conclusion, that we're being misled. And the problem is the lack of adapting to new science and still sticking with the old version of the Newtonian science that separated the universe into two realms, energy and matter, and emphasized that matter affects matter, energy affects energy, but energy and matter don't talk to each other. And that led to the current way of doing medicine. You want to fix the body, you got to do something physical. Turns out, quantum physics reveals that is 100% wrong. Everything is energy, and energy is what shapes matter. In fact, when we talk about the energy, and I say, look, wherever you are in an energy field. I said, what's a field? I said, well, there's all energies you're surrounded by, like cell phone broadcasts, radio broadcasts, television broadcasts, solar energy. And I said, so you're in a field of energy. And then when you understand this quote from Albert Einstein in quantum physics, it says, the field is the sole governing agency of matter. What it says is it's the invisible energy that is giving shape to our physical experience. And then what that means is, well, when Newtonian science brought in the idea of separating the realm of matter and energy, they separated energy and said that belongs to religion. That's metaphysical. That's not, you can't do science with that. But physics, with the material world, is what we can do. So the mind was taken out of biology 400 or so years ago, and the idea is, as you well know, in the last number of years, the whole idea is, oh my God, it's wrong. The mind is what's controlling our biology, the consciousness, the energy field. And this leads us to where the problem comes from when people believe that their life is controlled by their genes. And I say the significance is, as far as you know, you didn't pick them. In that moment of conception, you got all these genes. And if you don't like the characteristic of these genes, you can't change them. And then they add on top of that, the genes turn on and off by themselves. We have programmed an entire population to believe that their life is not in their control. The life is under the control of these genes, which carry these traits, which can get them sick and stuff. And so we have programmed people to not take power over their health by telling them they have no power over their health. And then as victims, they have to buy into the system. And unfortunately, and I do have a bias, the pharmaceutical industry has taken advantage of that, of course, and has become one of the most profitable industries on the planet, from selling drugs, which are one of the bigger problems on this planet.
I remember, I think there's a quote from your book, Niels Bohr said, anyone who's not shocked by quantum theory has not understood it. So, and
Yes.
your point too was that we use and we see quantum physics in our daily lives, and medicine uses quantum physics in our daily lives, from PET scans to microwaves to fluorescent bulbs, yet we fail to actually recognize the quantum impacts in our cellular health. So why is it why is this so it's like we're so mechanistic and so siloed in our approach and so influenced by, I guess, the system and what we're sort of used to. Yeah.
Money is what's keeping it from happening, because here's a simple point. Any drug you take only can work if the cells have what are called proteins on the surface called receptors. A receptor means receiver. In the human, our receptors are built into our skin just like it is to the cell, but our receptors are big things like eyes, ears, nose, taste, touch. These are the devices that respond to the environmental signals that allow us to survive in the world. Well, cells have receptors, but they're at the molecular level, and they respond to environmental signals, and these signals are going to control the fate of the cell. So the pharmaceutical company has always been based on the reality that there's a physical chemical that can activate a receptor, and therefore they design drugs to send signals physically to cells via the chemistry. Well, the issue is this, that's Newtonian physics, because it turns out the receptors are more influenced by energy fields than by chemistry. And so the idea about it is, if a drug works, this is the first thing, if a drug works, it means you already have a receptor for that signal. And you don't need to buy the drug because your body will make that drug. That's why the signals work that way. So the pharmaceutical company says, oh, your issues are your signals aren't working, your genes aren't working, blah, blah, blah. We'll put these chemicals in. And it turns out, no. It's really the receptors are controlling it, but the receptors are controlled more by energy. And I say, well, what energy is, really controlling our cells? And then I go back. Remember that mind that we took out of the picture a long time ago? That is the equivalent of a tuning fork that is in resonance with the energy of the world, and downloads our awareness of the world and activates our biology so we can conform and adapt to the environment, and that's what keeps us alive. So the point about it is this. Chemical drugs are not the best way to influence the system. The most effective way through physics is through an energy and a vibration, which means what? Consciousness, okay? And everything, and this is what, let me put you back in the picture here, doctor, and that is this. Everything that's physical gives off energy. Now, the Asians have known that for years, and that's why they created the science of feng shui, which is you put objects with different energies around you, make a crystal, and then you live in that crystal of energy, which empowers you, okay? But a body has energy. And all the cells in that human and who they are is an expression of energy. And I say the relevance about that is we were designed from the most primitive living organism, from bacteria, the most primitive form, to the highest form of life. The first level of communication is vibration. The first way of communicating the world and the most powerful way is vibration. Now, it's unfortunate because vibration is connected to feelings. And I go, what's unfortunate? I say, most of us have been programmed, don't go by your feelings. So listen to what this person has to say. And I go, you just lost your power. Because your power is to read the vibration. And there's three consequences. That a vibration that you integrate or get next to, a vibration can empower you, which is called a construct of interference. It's also called good vibes. Good vibes is when you're in the right place. You can feel the energy. It's like, I feel great. Bad vibes is when something gives off energy and cancels your energy. And since energy is life, more energy, more life, less energy, less life. So the most primitive organisms navigate the world like with a compass, doing what? Reading the energy and determining if this energy is low, I'm going to turn around, I'm going to go that way, get better energy, I'm going to go toward the energy. We do this unconsciously, but we've also been programmed to, in the conscious level, to disregard our feelings. I go, no, the feelings are the primary level of communication. Feelings are the energy turned into sensation. And so the idea is we can read people. You can read people. You know what good vibes are. When you get around some people, even before you talk to them, you don't feel that good. And there are other people you get around, even before you talk to them, it's like, I feel good in the presence of this person. It's like human feng shui in a sense. And the idea about this is when a patient isn't doing well, their energy is low. Remember, energy is the fuel of life. You got a lot of energy, you got some good life. You got low energy, your life is now compromised, okay? A person goes to a doctor because basically no matter what their symptoms are, the significance is they have less energy. And they go to the doctor to get more energy. And now more energy has always been now assigned to, what drug am I going to take to give you more energy? I go, no. The energy first comes from the practitioner. The practitioner is a generator of energy. And when the practitioner is healthy and happy, that's the draw for patients to come, because then they're going to get good vibes. They're going to get higher energy by interacting with you. You know, it's also interesting, just the concept of you as a healer. A lot of people have symptoms. This is neat because this has to do with developmental programming when we were children for most people. The programming is, oh, mommy's sick, daddy's sick, you're sick. Where do we go? We go to the doctor. And I go, what was the learning in the developmental period of a child? And that is, when it comes to sickness, I'm not the one who takes care of it. I have to go to the doctor. Now, there's a joke involved here, and that is, no one ever said what the doctor had to do. And I said, so what was the point? I say, well, people get these symptoms, they go to the doctor, and while they're sitting in the waiting room, all of a sudden I say, geez, I feel better. I feel better, you know. It's like, oh, it's not so bad. And the point was what? Their behavior was programmed to get better, to see the doctor. When you see the doctor, then the program is engaged. And then I say, then that's part one. And then I say part two is, when you connect with the doctor, there's an energy exchange. And the doctor comes with the wisdom of all this stuff that offers energy to the patient that does not have this energy wisdom. And if the doctor is coming from a good place and the doctor is happy and the doctor loves their life and everything, their energy is like a beacon, and it's called constructive interference, good vibes. When the patient actually becomes engaged with you, that's when the healing started, right there. Because
I think one of the issues with medicine is that we think it needs to be really complex. And there was an article just written in News GP the other day, which is an Australian-based, online newsletter, and they were talking about in the old days where we had more access to doctors, like, say, for example, somebody just got out of hospital, they just had a baby, and the doctor called the new mum every day just to reassure her. She had a couple of, quick questions and et cetera, et cetera. Now that doesn't happen anymore. And usually what happens is the mother gets very, very anxious, or something might happen. There might be a little question. She can't access that. A week later, 10 days later, she's in the emergency department, panicked, anxious, the baby's picking that up, the breastfeeding's gone, et cetera, et cetera. We can create any story we like here. But essentially they were saying, like, that reassurance, that contact with the good vibes, that connection with another person when you are in a challenging situation is so unbelievably empowering. Yet modern-day medicine just forgets that.
That's what the placebo effect.
Yeah, that's right.
The placebo effect is, I'm sick. The doctor then representing healing, the doctor said, this pill is
Yeah.
the newest thing, and it's going to heal you.
Yeah.
And the person takes that pill with the assurance from the the energy source, the doctor, that this is it. And so the consciousness of that person now is changed because they're taking the pill with the concept, the pill is going to heal me. And then they get better, and then the truth comes out, it was a sugar pill.
Yeah.
And then the real truth comes out and says, then what healed you? The belief in the pill healed you. And all of a sudden, it wasn't the pill. Of course, that was sugar pill. And I go, but this belief has to start with a source. And that's where the doctor stands in, because the doctor has been given that title of the source of this information. And I have to say something, because again, as a former professor in the medical school, we have issues like here in the States and same in New Zealand and Australia, where medicine practice is actually causing a lot of problems. And then there's a tendency to look at the doctor as the practitioner. I go, no, big mistake. The doctor was programmed in medical school. And I'll never forget it, as being a professor in a medical school, students did not ask us questions. They took notes, and they memorized those notes. And they passed the exam because they memorized those notes. But nobody asked questions. They just took the lesson as that's a fact. And then they have to practice with that. I say, so the failure is not in the doctor and the doctor's personal practice with the patient. The failure is in the medical school, where the programming of the doctor takes place with misinformation, misperceptions, and then try to practice when your programming is not helping you. And the answer, it's not going to be very positive.
Well, it comes back to that.
I just want to emphasize, it is not the doctor as the issue. It is the education system.
Yeah, it's the system.
That is the issue. And I prefer to focus my attention on that and say, let's fix it. I don't need to fix the doctor. I need to fix the school.
I mean, it comes back to that kind of Darwinian theory too, of like there's such a hierarchy in medicine that, you know, the patient doesn't feel in community with the doctor. There's this kind of power over, as opposed to power with, this understanding that, you know, a doctor can give so much empowerment over to the patient, or they could take it away, you know, in very easily, very, you know, quickly, without actually understanding how powerful that potential role is when someone is very vulnerable. And often I think it's not emphasized enough, the power of that placebo and that power of connection in the relationship, and how much that makes a difference to the outcome.
Yes, and to me it's very important. It's the relationship of who's the truth provider in this relationship, okay? Now, the problem with that, and this is where a problem comes on the doctor, but it's not their problem because they were never told this, is that the patient's going to take whatever words they say and manifest a life based on that prognosis. And when doctors give negative prognoses, that, oh, this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, and then you're going to die, and all that kind of stuff, they don't realize the belief in the doctor is a program. And the words of the doctor are now the truth of the patient. And they don't recognize that when this truth is taken by the patient, their consciousness will manifest whatever that prognosis is. And doctors just don't realize their own power, that the words they just said are going to shape the health of that patient from this moment on.
Because there was some recent research on aging, which I thought was absolutely amazing. And they took a group of 70, late 70s, early 80-year-olds, and they put them in a retreat-like situation and made the whole retreat into kind of the era of 30 years ago. So the music, the newspapers, the books, the language, the radio, the TV was all set to 30 years ago. And then within a week, they had better hearing, better eyesight, they looked younger, and their blood pressure dropped, or, like it was just phenomenal that taking them back, and they compared that to a control group where they just spoke about 30 years ago, for a week. But even to see the cellular transformation that has to occur to have those results just through taking yourself back to time. So there's this mind-body effect of aging, like I often am challenged by people who say, well, I am 60 and expecting pain to occur or expecting arthritis to just be a part of the aging process.
That's
we
an
have to challenge
unfortunate
that
expectation,
as well.
because that's a consciousness that is the programmer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm 80. I don't, but I'm not going there because I know this. Aging is a belief system when we grew up. I said, what do you mean? I said, as a child, you started to learn there were young people, then they get older, and then they get really old, and then they die. And then all of a sudden, there's a progression that is built into this child's mind even before they're over 7 years old. That, oh my God, there's this thing called aging, and then age, and then you die. And I say, that is a program. Because now that you know that's the way life is, the subconscious, which runs these programs, will run it below conscious, subconscious, and you will age from the programming you believe in aging. I don't want to believe in it. As a matter of fact, the expected lifespan of a human under normal situations is 150 years minimum. And you go, well, how? We making 100?
So you're
everybody's like,
not
oh,
even
that's real
halfway.
exciting, and the reality is this: is the stress and the poor nutrition that people are involved with that is undermining their health. Number one is a new study, and this is not even out, and it's not even being advanced but too much, but I've seen it it's out for 20 years. And it is this: the idea that humans need food to get their energy is the belief, breakfast is your starter meal. It's one of the most important meals of the day, and you got to eat this. And then at night, you can supersize your meal and all this kind of stuff like this. And it turns out, and this is not in the public yet at all, this is just some leading-edge research, 85% of the energy that a human needs does not come from food. It comes directly out of the environment. And you say, what do you mean? I go, well, plants take sunlight, the energy, and then manifest carbohydrates, food, okay? Humans have crystals, and they're called melanin, and they're in the skin, and melanin's job is to take energy out of the atmosphere and convert it into biological fuel. So 85% of our energy needs is basically coming from the electromagnetic fields in which we live. And yet we were programmed to believe that food is driving us. The more food is going to drive us, and that's why we're overeating. And a simple understanding of why can that cause a problem, the answer is this. You eat food, but you digest it. Digest it is burning food. It's burned at the chemical level. But the point is, whenever you burn something, you get waste product. So you don't breathe, for example, you don't breathe the air out of the tailpipe of your car. The exhaust is toxic. When we eat food, a byproduct of digestion is toxic, and they're called free radicals. Free radicals are charged atoms that shoot holes in your cells, like bullet holes. And the more food you eat, the more free radicals you make. The more free radicals you make, the faster you kill your cells. It turns out the amount of food we eat is killing us and destroying the planet because we're making, cut down the rainforest, make more McDonald's burgers. It's like, holy crap. That's a double crime. One, you're going to feed these people and kill them with it. And number two, the rainforest was necessary for cleaning the atmosphere of the planet.
Yeah. It just makes us so, just what you said, it's just so important, the environments that we live in, inside our homes, inside our workplaces, inside our daily commutes. And it just, it's so amazing listening to these kind of concepts because it just blows your mind in terms of the way that we live. I mean, I was at a conference last night, and just, there's so much pressure on healthcare practitioners at the moment, like to deliver, and, people's books are full, and, all of these kind of, challenges of like fitting people in. And so much of what we can do for ourselves is change that external environment and work with both our internal and external environment is so powerful. And you talk a bit in your book about social isolation. Obviously it was amplified through the pandemic, but it's been coming for a long, long time. And you talk about, the impact of social isolation on our genes, and why do you think it's such a profound stressor? And, why do you think it's happening so much?
Which part is happening so much? Which part?
Social isolation. So why is it so powerful now?
Let's start off with this. It's a fact of life. There's no organism that lives alone on this planet.
Yeah.
There's no organism. Every organism lives in a form of community. Even bacteria. You look at them as here's one and there's one, and they're not connected. And you say, oh, they're all isolated living. I go, no, they're not. They're communicating by viruses, which is the highest form of communication, sending signals to their colleagues. They can touch each other and send signals, and they can release the equivalent of hormones. But all of it is communication. That every organism is part of a community. That when you're outside of the community, you have lost connection with humanity, and that you will not survive. For example, an ant is part of a community. If you take an ant and separate it from the community, it will die. Why? Because it only works and it's part of a community. And one of the interesting things about I read this because I thought it was interesting, was in horses, when a colt, a young horse, is misbehaving, the parents will nip at it to say, don't do that, don't do that. But if the horse doesn't pay attention, the colt, then the parents push it out of the community. It says, you can't be here with us. And guess what? Shortly after being out of the community, the horse is back, and it's learned a lesson, because community is vital to our survival. And evolution has been misunderstood from a Darwinian perspective, because it's based on survival of the fittest, which is the individual. Like, the individual counts in evolution. It's like, no, the new understanding of evolution is not competition, cooperation.
Yes.
That cooperation is evolution. Cooperation means come together, work in harmony, support each other. And yet we live in a Darwinian world with a complete opposite belief system that says, screw the other people, take care of yourself. In fact, this is disastrous, and this is a big issue we're facing on this planet today, the inability of people to live in harmony with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I mean, it comes down to this hierarchy. Even the patriarchy is like pitching one gender against, another gender. And, we want this harmony is kind of the driver of optimal health. It is the science of psychoneuroimmunology, where our cellular function, is our immunity. Our neurology impacts our immunity, our internal culture, our external environment, from the food to our mindset, to our programmings, to our willingness to surrender, to community. Positive mindset isn't enough, because it's not just about the individual. It's also about harmony and community and growth. You speak a lot about growth in your book, and I love the way that you speak about growth and energy. Tell us about how you kind of think about growth in terms of, when we can grow and when we don't grow, when we protect all the time. I love the way that you explain that.
The most important understanding is, if I wanted to take human behavior and, just arbitrarily, or actually subdivide it into two main functions that every living organism engages in. Function number one is growth, which is obvious. Maintain the body, take care of it, fix it, keep it healthy. But the other function of a body, and from bacteria to humans, is protection.
Yeah.
I go, what do you mean? I say, well, protection is to save yourself. I say, what's the difference? Growth is you go to a stimulus, be it love, food, school, whatever thing that enhances you. Love, growth is you go toward the stimulus and you're open to take it in, whether it's love or understanding. Okay? Growth. And I said, but what's protection? I said, protection is you go away from the threat. You don't go to it, the stimulus. You go away from that stimulus, and you don't keep yourself open, but you wall yourself off to protect you from a threat. So I say, well, growth, go to the stimulus, be open, take it in. Protection, go away from the stimulus, be closed, and wall yourself off. I go, you can't be in both of those at the same time. They're completely opposite behaviors. You can't go do something and away from it at the same time. You can't be open and closed at the same time. So it basically says we were designed to use protection. That was necessary. Let's go 100,000 years ago. I said, what were we protecting ourselves from 100,000 years ago? I go, saber-toothed tiger. I go, so what does that mean? I say, well, let's say we're a bunch of hunter-gatherers. We're sitting around pulling some fruit off a tree and enjoying ourselves. The tiger comes. When we were feeding ourselves, that was growth. Open, take it in, incorporate it. The tiger comes. It's like, now we need protection. So I say, what does that mean? I say, run away from the tiger. and now I'm going to give you, not you, you already know, I'm going to give the audience the insight to the health crisis. And I say, what is it? Well, let's go back to that day when the tiger was there. I say, how long did you stay in protection? I say, maybe 10 minutes. Because if you could escape that tiger and then he's gone, there's no more protection. And then you go back into growth again. So protection was used for very short intervals of intense activity to save yourself. Today, the threat is 24/7, 365. The threat is every day. You're going to have enough money? Is your job going to pay you? You're going to be healthy? Does this support you? You know, our lives. So all of a sudden, we see a need for protection, not just a few minutes, but almost all the time.
It turns into hypervigilance. So then we become hyper protective.
Yes. And the closer we are to the chaos that the world is in right now, the more we're going to need that. But the point about it is simply this. To support protection, you have to shut off growth. Because you need energy is going to keep you alive in growth, but energy is really necessary to run away from the tiger. So in the very briefest, if I can make it, let me offer our audience the insight to why the healthcare crisis on this planet is so great. And it's based on this. When we're under stress, and now I got to give a definition because what the hell is stress? I'm going to give an overall and simple definition, and that is, as individuals, we have a destination. We want this, we want to do that, we want to become this, so there's a destination. Stress is anything that gets between you and the destination. It could be a simple stress, it could be a complex stress. It's all stress that says it's interfering with the plan that you have. Okay? So I go, okay, now the stress in today's world, of course, is threatening because it threatens your income, your resources, your health, and everything else. So I say, so wait, how does stress work? Now, this is where the issues of illness and disease come in. It goes like this. This is a line taken out of a physiology book, and it goes like this. When stress hormones are released into the system, the blood is preferentially sent to the arms and legs. Well, what they're saying is, when a tiger is coming, you want the blood in your arms and legs. You say, why? Because blood carries the energy. So I say, okay, so when I see that tiger, I'm going to preferentially send the blood to my arms and legs. Well, the first question is then, where was the blood before it went to the arms and legs? I go, it was concentrated in the gut, the viscera. I said, what was it doing there? Well, it's a source of energy. I go, yeah, but what was it doing? The gut organs maintain the body, keep it clean, the function, filter things, rebuild things, provide nutrition, filter out stuff, whatever. I say, so when the blood is in the gut, It's maintaining your growth and your health. But I say, but what happens if the saber-toothed tiger is there? I go, stress hormones, listen to this, cause the blood vessels in the gut to constrict so the blood flow doesn't go through the gut. I say, now where's it going? Preferentially, it's now going to the arms and legs because that's what we're going to need to get away from that tiger. I say, so what was the cost? The cost was the moment you were in stress, you stopped maintaining the health and maintenance of the body because the energy is now being sent to your arms and legs. Then I say that right away is a problem. Number two, there are two protection systems. One's called the immune system, one's called the adrenal system. The immune system protects me from threats inside my body. The adrenal system protects me from threats outside my body. So I say, so you're being chased by your saber-toothed tiger. I say, what about the immune system? I say, let's start with this. The immune system uses a lot of energy because if you've ever been really sick, you didn't even have the energy to get out of the bed because that's how much the immune system. So let's say, theoretical, you have this bacterial infection, you're not feeling very well, and there's a saber-toothed tiger showing up. I say, how do you want to split the energy? How much energy do you want to fight the bacteria, and how much energy you want to put toward running away from the tiger? Well, the answer is a no-brainer for this reason. Yeah. You put all the energy to run away from the tiger because if the tiger catches you, that bacterial infection doesn't mean anything anymore. That doesn't exist now. So basically, and this is very critical, people have to understand this, the stress hormones not only cause the blood to shift from the gut to the arms and legs, but stress hormones shut off the immune system to conserve energy. It's so effective that when a doctor wants to transplant an organ from person A into person B, they don't want the recipient of the organ, the immune system, that person to reject the foreign tissue. So before they transplant the organ, they give the recipient stress hormones. And the stress hormones prevent the immune system from rejecting the graft. So that's how effective stress hormones are in controlling the immune system. So I say, now what happened? Well, we shut down the growth and maintenance of the body. We shut off the immune system. I say those two things alone right there are the primary cause of illness on this planet. I say, why? Because I said, it was only designed to be used for 10 minutes. Run away from the tiger. Let's get
Not
back to
15
growth.
years.
And today it's 24/7 stress is there. We are killing ourselves with the perceptions of fear about not being able to survive or strive or, get what you want. And this is the primary cause of the health crisis on the planet today. 90% of illness is due to stress, which includes, of course, cardiovascular disease. Diabetes has nothing to do with genetics. That's a diabetes, too.
Oh, yeah.
That's a stress from nutritional problems. Let's put it very simply this way, is that genes account for less than 1% of disease. Less than 1% of all the disease on this planet has anything to do with genetics. 90% or more is the consequence of stress hormones redirecting the function of the body into protection, as a consequence shutting off the growth and maintenance, which as a consequence leads to a breakdown of the system. And that's the health crisis we're facing right now.
Yep, and we're looking completely in the wrong direction to try and help it. So what are your top tips for stress management, or how do you approach it, in this particular time in history?
Let's start at the physiological level. Make sure that the food that we eat is all from biodynamic or organic farmers and not from industrial farm, which is creating food that lasts on the shelf for weeks but has no nutritional value. A tomato is very red, but it tastes like nothing. See, so that's genetic engineering right there. And so the point is, we're feeding cells with metabolic building blocks. And when I grew cells in tissue culture in my lab, we never compromised on the quality of the ingredients. If I got, here's a cheaper version of this chemical, and if I put it in, I could see the cells get sick within minutes and start dying because they depend on this nutrition to support their vitality. If you're eating food without nutrition, then you're putting empty stuff into your cells. It's not going to help them at all. So I start with, first of all, are we eating well? Number two, don't eat as much as I used to eat. I used to eat. I don't do that. The big effort is to cut it down because now with the recognition is that the more food you eat, the shorter your lifespan. That's a fact. Okay? Then I go, energy-wise. I go, what do you mean energy-wise? I say, energy is life. You got energy, you have life. You don't have energy, you don't get life. I go, so what does that mean? I say, start to read the field that you're in. Gravitate towards the things that boost your energy. You can feel it. It's called good vibes. Stay away from things that you can feel the energy drain out of your body, bad vibes, because that's a compromise. That's a very important step. Am I in the right place? I can feel it. If I don't feel it, I'm not there. That's a big point. And then, and I like this one, think about it this way. Money is energy. It's actually the energy to allow you to have the life that you want. If you have money, you can live just, okay, or with a lot of money, you can really live. With no money, you got a problem, okay? So think about it this way. Most of us have a bank account with a checkbook. Well, that was the old days, okay? But I say, what was relevant? I say, you didn't write checks for nothing. Why? Because why would you waste your money? You know, you write checks for something that you get back. I go, because otherwise, if you're giving away the money, you're giving away life. That's your life is your money. You got no money, you got no life. You give it away, you don't have it. So we're very protective of energy when it's in the form of money. But we don't recognize this. Our body runs on energy. And if I gave you an energy checkbook where you had to write a check before you engaged in any function, you might start to think about, do I need to do this one? Or is it, should I engage in this function? And I say, why? I say, you're investing your energy to do something. Invest your energy, write the energy check only when whatever your effort is returns to you, something, or to your family, or to your community. In other words, now you're working, you're putting in energy to this, but you're going to get something back for the vitality of you and your community. I say, invest in that. But what if you just spend energy willy-nilly and don't pay any difference? You know, I always give the example of a political argument in a bar, and two guys get into it, they get heated, and they're yelling and blah, blah, and they get all hot and bothered about it, and they walk out of the bar, and I said, did you use energy? And the answer is, not only did they use it, they wasted it, because heat, by definition in physics, is called wasted energy. So they all got heated up, and they were all angry and yelling, and said, you were burning up energy. But the question is, did you make a difference? Did your argument change the politics? Did your argument change the world? Did it change in any way, made your life better? I said, no. I said, what happened? I said, you threw away the energy. You could have been having fun with that energy. You're doing something that gave you some quality of life that you liked or something like that. And all of a sudden I say, what if I did give you an energy checkbook? And you say, but we always do this. I said, why do you always do it? Because we always do it. I go, that's not a reason for doing something. The reason for doing something is, what are you getting back from what you've invested your energy into? You start to realize we are giving away a lot of energy every day that doesn't enhance or vitalize us in any way whatsoever. And it's a waste. Yeah. You gave it, you used it, and you got nothing back. Guess what? You can start to cut back like I started to do, saying, well, we always do that. And I say, why do we always do it? Because we always do it. I go, yeah, but why? And then you realize, because we always do it, but it has no benefit. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I say, what if you save that energy? I'll give you the first time, because I remember, I'll never forget, the first time I was contemplating this in my office in the university, in the medical school, and a colleague came in and said, Bruce, hey, don't forget, there's the faculty party on Saturday night. What are you bringing? And I have to now give a little insight. They're the most boring things in the entire world, faculty parties. People don't talk to each other. They have nothing to say. They stand around with a drink in their hand, and it's like just waiting, like counting how many hours until you can go home. And it's Saturday night. I work all week. And it's like, what? I'm going to give up Saturday night to go stand around and be uncomfortable with a lot of people we don't communicate with? And I moment, because I was just thinking about wasting energy, I said, wait a minute. I said, oh, my goodness, I forgot that I made these other plans. I forgot about the faculty party. And he looked at me like, you forgot about it? I go, yeah, He walked out, maybe mumbling, I don't know. But the moment he walked out, I could feel this so excited part of my life, because I said, oh, my God, I have Saturday night to do what I want to do. And it was like, the moment I did that, the moment I felt it, the next thing in my mind is, what else? What else can I cut out of these things? Because every time I cut out a useless energy, it gave me energy for more personal use.
Yeah.
And energy is life, and I prefer to have my life and enjoy it and not be tired out and dead tired and no energy and can't do it. No, I like a bubble. I like that whole idea of energy.
I mean, I think these are the kind of words that we can kind of help to guide us. And the word that kind of came through as I was listening to you is really respect, respecting ourselves, respecting energy. And also often the answer to many of our problems is actually doing less rather than doing more. So, I have a postgrad in psychoneuroimmunology, and I'm still baffled by how invisible the impacts of energetics and how profoundly this science of interconnection is. Bruce, your optimism is infectious, and your educational storytelling skills
Let me close with this other one, because it's really become more conscious in my head in the last couple of months, and that is, it's called the Serenity Prayer, and people have heard about it, and I've never paid attention, but it basically says this, do whatever you can do that will make a difference, and don't put your effort into things that don't make a difference.
Yeah,
and it's exactly what we're talking about. But the prayer goes on, and have the wisdom to know which is which.
Yeah,
and disconnect from contributing life force to things that you cannot change. I can't change the way the government runs. What can I do? I can vote. That's it. Anything more than that, what am I going to do? Nobody's listening to me. I'm just a guy,
So just to finish.
It was interesting because I'm a resident of New Zealand. I did this because I wrote a book called Spontaneous Evolution, which is talking about exactly what you're experiencing in the world today. It's a collapse of civilization. I mean, NASA scientists have actually said within 20 years, there will be and I emphasize this word, irreversible collapse of civilization within 20 years. The reason? If we wanted to maintain civilization just the way it is today, let's say everybody go home and live just the way we're living today, it takes the resources of 1.6 planet Earth to provide for today's civilization. Well, do the math. The point is what? There is no extra 0.6 planet Earth. We have been taking it from the future, taking it out of the planet, destroying the resources, using them, destroying the environment, polluting the air, the water, the soil, to keep up this way of life, which is undermining the way of life.
Which is not promoting health
either. We're facing this. What's that, Doreen?
Well, it's not promoting health either. I mean, we've got the unhealthiest, human population, ever.
It's chaos. It's chaos.
Terrible.
Which means what? Stress. The whole planet is under stress. And that's why it's a global healthcare issue.
So stress has an underpinning on every single cellular mechanism that we know of. And so if we can learn to really target that as practitioners, then we really have a playing field, to really do some very transformational medicine. So Bruce, I want to thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, listen, I want to thank you. I could talk about this theoretically from this ivory tower, but you are a person in the trenches working with the people that is directly involved with changing the health of this world. And I honor that so much, and I so honor your direction and your efforts
thank you, Bruce,
as being what is necessary in today's chaotic situation that we're in. So I love to talk. I can do that all the time. But you are a practitioner, and that's where the change is going to come from.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us.
I thank you for the opportunity to talk to this wonderful audience, because whoever's listening, by definition, is probably what we call a cultural creative. A person who's looking for, give me some answers that are not in the box, because inside the box it's not working right now. And
I like that.
You're out there as a beacon of light, and I'm so happy to be able to speak with you.
Thank you everyone for listening today. Don't forget that you can find all the show notes, transcripts and other resources from today's episode on the FX Medicine website. I'm Dr. Michelle Woolhouse, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Enjoyed this episode? Subscribe to FX Medicine by Bioceuticals on YouTube by pressing our logo. You can also head to bioceuticals.com.au/education for more healthcare professional resources.